even know I was live. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is Tammy, and I am live. I have notes here, y'all. So just so y'all know, um, today, welcome to the club you never wanted to join. So today's talk is on grief. Um, Grief, a hot mess in 5 to 12 stages, depending on who you ask. And so I started thinking about this because I was thinking about my grandmother, and she has been gone from this plane for, let me see, 20 years. 20 years now. It's hard to believe that I'm still here and she's not. So, the thing about grief is that unwanted party guest who shows up late, stays too long, drinks all the wine, and rearranges your emotional furniture. That's what grief is. And I'm telling you, it's not linear. It doesn't just go away. You can't just get over it. I hear people say that, well, get over it. She's been dead for 10 years. She's still not here in her physical body. So I'm still missing her and I'm allowed to do that. And so I'm giving you today permission to deal with your grief. And it's okay. Nobody sends out invitations, but sooner or later, everyone ends up on the guest list, y'all. That is the truth. Everybody ends up on the guest list. We all lose people. We all deal with grief in different ways. Losing someone. And you know what else? Grief is not just losing someone, it could be losing something. A lot of times, I feel like I grieved my first marriage because I lost something that was precious to me at one time. And so there was a brief process that I went through in dealing with that once I got divorced. Actually, in the process of getting divorced, all around all that stuff, because for me, it was 20 years. That's a long time to be with somebody. Although, it's okay. I'm not upset about it or anything like that because God has truly blessed me with my professional husband. I call that one the starter husband. That got me started. And now I have the professional. So I'm good with that. But I just wanted to share that can be a part of a grief process. When you're divorced, when you, you know, exit a relationship, even if, because a lot of people these days aren't getting married. They living together for 10 and 20 years, 30 years. I don't understand it, but that's them. And so when they split up, it's still a level of grief and it's not linear. So it's not like, today this thing happened and so you're going to grieve about it tomorrow and then the next day you're going to be fine. No, typically not. Could happen. Yes, it could happen. But does it happen pretty on the regular? No. People grieve in different ways for different seasons and different times. Um, Losing someone or something significant shatters your idea of normal. And that is really the major thing. Because if anybody would have asked me, had I expected my grandmother to leave here? I did not. I did not expect that. I expected her to be with me until I left here, which, is not really realistic, right? But it's what I expected. It was my expectation. Um, So, and I think about this as someone who walked, crawled, limped, side eyed through grief myself, I can tell you it's chaos with the side of personal growth. So through that grief, you're gonna grow. Period. That's just what's gonna happen. And so I always talk about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross because she was the one that introduced the 5 stages of grief in 1969. She was a Swiss American psychiatrist, and she started talking about the 5 stages of grief. And so I'm going to go over them. I'm going to cover them. I'm going to also share that they're not linear either. They don't happen in any order. Sometimes they can happen, different ones can happen at different times. So there is no order to the grief. One of the first stages that she talks about is denial. So in denial, think about this. This can't be happening. We experience this all the time. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. I don't know what's going on, but this can't be happening. You suddenly develop the emotional range of a robot. You go to work, you answer emails, you buy paper towels. You also do spiritual flatlining. Denial isn't lying to yourself, it's your brain giving you an emotional soft launch. So it's just helping you to face this situation. It's really what it does. And then the next thing is anger. Why me? Why them? Why now? All of this stuff. And I have dealt with all of this. I have dealt with all this. I'm like, why? Why did this happen? Why did this happen now? And why are they gone? And this is in different situations. I mean, I'm talking right now about my grandmother and the grief that I experienced, with that, but there have been other times as well, different other types of grief that have happened, when my marriage dissolved. That was a grief process for me. And so I navigated it through these steps that we're going through. I went through all of these steps, just different times, sometimes in different orders. So it's not really an order that it's going to go through. It's just that you probably will experience these things in this grief process. So this stage comes in hot. It looks like yelling, passive aggressively slamming cabinets, or crying while rage cleaning your bathroom. It's a sign you're starting to feel the weight of the loss and your brain doesn't love it. So that's a whole nother thing. You're starting to feel the weight of the loss and your brain doesn't love it. So you get angry and get pissed the fuck off. Bargaining is another stage. If I do this, can I get them back? So you start bargaining with God. And we do this so many different times and ways. A lot of times, if we are having a near death experience, many people have experienced this type of grief and bargaining as well. You replay every moment, every conversation. You imagine scenarios in which you change the outcome, even if it makes no logical sense. This is guilt dressed up as strategy. So this is something that you're trying to make sense of it. You're bargaining, you're trying to make sense of it. If I do this, then will you send them back? This kind of thing, which, none of it makes any sense. But since grief is experienced in different ways and according to different scenarios and circumstances, it could be this way. If you're grieving um, the loss of a home, or grieving the loss of a pet, even. Depression is another stage of grief. And what's the point? This isn't just sadness, it's emotional gravity. Emotional gravity. Everything feels heavier, harder. You might start ghosting friends and crying at dog food commercials. This is where people worry about you. And honestly, they should check in. But this is the time when you're going through this stage of depression. And it happens, and sometimes it happens a lot. Like I really believe that when my grandmother left me, I felt like I had lost it. Like I really felt like I had lost my mind. I felt like I was so depressed and I couldn't even understand how I was supposed to go on. And some of the things when I look back, some of the things that I did, I know I was depressed because I would have never have done those things if I was in my right mind. So I know I had just left the building. I was just depressed and, left my body, all types of stuff, you know? And this can happen at any time. It can happen now, 20 years later. I'm still missing her, still. Acceptance is the last stage that I'm going to talk about with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So this happened, I can't change it. Acceptance is when you say, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. I just need to acknowledge. It's not peace, it's acknowledgement. You stop trying to reverse reality. You start making room for joy and sorrow to sit at the same table. You might even laugh again and then immediately feel weird about it. And that happens quite frequently to many of us that are dealing with grief or have dealt with grief. Kubler-Ross later clarified that these stages, just like I just said, aren't linear and not everyone goes through all of them. Honestly, grief is more like a pinball machine than a staircase. So typically, you may not deal with all of them. You may not be, the person that um goes through the depression. You might not that might not hit you. You might go through bargaining or um denial. You might go through acceptance. And you might go through them more than once. It might hit you in different times. So we have to really sit with ourselves. Really sit with ourselves and realize, when we are dealing with grief. And the other thing is too is it's not there's not a problem to ask for help. There are so many ways that you can get help. There are counseling. There's I think BetterHelp is one that I know that I've heard of, but there are different counseling ways to get counseling and therapy if you need it. There are healers out here that can help you heal and shift these things. I am one of them. You can reach out to one of us. There are so many different ways and different things that you can do to help yourself to get through grief. You don't have to drown, and that's what a lot of us do. We drown. We don't ask anybody for help. Especially, my Reiki masters I'm talking to and my theta healers and all my people that do all types of energy work. A lot of times we won't reach out and ask people and say, "Hey, I need some help." I was one of those. I would not reach out and ask people, and I knew I was drowning. I knew I needed help. I knew it, but I wouldn't reach out. Now, why is that? Because culture and conditioning. I am a Gen X. I'm a Black woman born in the United States, a Gen X. And they taught us not to, tell strangers your business. You don't go telling strangers your business. What is wrong with you? That's what we did. We this was how we were conditioned and how we were taught. You know, Black people don't go to therapists. Because they use that stuff against us. This is how we were taught. This is what they said to us to keep us in our places, really, in our places, keep us struggling and, you know, going through stuff that we didn't really have to go through if we could just get some help, some talk therapy, even. Sometimes you just need to talk to somebody and just get all this crazy shit out of your head. Sometimes that's the point, and that's what we need to do. So, again, thank y'all for hanging out with me as I shared on grief today. I'm going to do another live tomorrow and complete some of this information on grief that I have because it's so amazing. But I don't like to overwhelm people, and I try to do it in a way that is digestible. Is digestible. That is a part of me that other people don't do that, and everybody does their own way. But for me, I like it to be digestible, something that you can digest, and something that you can learn from in that moment. So, again, thank you so much for joining me. I am absolutely loving um, this space. I'm absolutely loving it. So, again, I appreciate y'all. I hope that your day is magical and that you have the most amazing weekend. I just realized it was Friday, y'all. So, have the most amazing weekend, y'all. I'm telling you, it's going to be magical. So, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me and joining me. Make sure that you check out my membership. It is Remember Who, TFUR. The link is right there in the comments. And if you're watching on YouTube, it is in the description of the video. So, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you. I will be back again tomorrow to talk about a little bit more on grief because I really felt called to share this today. And I feel like it's so many people that are dealing with that stuff. And, we don't have to do it alone. We don't have to deal with it alone. I have a soul mirror readings that are available as well. So you can join me there. Um, Go in my stand store at Intuitive Tammy, and there are my soul mirror readings, which If you know, you know. Those are powerful and amazing. We go into it with your guys, with my guys, with your guys. We all grab hands and we go into it and we tap into the things that you need and the things that you desire in your life and look at how to help you get there. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I would hope that your day is just amazing. And make sure you check out my stand store at Intuitive Tammy. Check out my books on Amazon. Walking Away is my signature book. I also have written Unchain Me Mama, which is an anthology where we talked about our mothers. And Michelle, it's another one of my ebooks on Amazon. So check out my Amazon um, store and my Amazon books and stuff like that. Make sure that you grab those if you have not. If you're in the States and you would like to have an autographed copy, you can always reach out to me. However, they are located on Amazon, and I really do appreciate your support. It allows me to be able to do this work where I'm helping women to remember who they are and to come into a place where they feel good and they feel comfortable and they feel like, they're ready for love, ready for, business, ready to be whoever it is that they decide they want to be. So that is what I do and who I am. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you and I hope that your day is magical. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.